Good morning. This is Leigh Richardson with the Brain Performance Center doing my podcast about In Your Head. And I have a really unusual guest this morning, and I definitely want to crawl in his head because Dr. Russell Zwanka has written a book on CBD oil. And since President Trump signed that bill back in December of 2018, I probably get somebody every week come in my office and say, should I get some CBD oil? Is it legal? What is it? And I don't know what my first question is I don't know if it's legal. That's the first question. So here with us today, we've got Dr. Zwanka, and he is going to really help clarify a lot of things for us. So thank you so much for being my guest.
Well, thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit. There's a real mystique around CBD oil. What is it? Is it hemp? Is it marijuana? What is it?
Well, that would be the best place to start, and I would tell you that the diffusion of innovation is what we call it. The ability for the American public to pick up on the qualities of cannabidiol has been pretty incredible. So if you break it down, you have a cannabis plant, and inside the cannabis plant you have over 100 cannabinoids. Cannabidiol, which is CBD, is technically a substance, one of the cannabinoids inside the plant that has less than 0.3% THC. When you are looking at the confusion factor or the stigma factor that's going on right now, the part of the issue is you have all these streams coming down. You have this medical marijuana discussion going on in multiple states. You have the recreational marijuana going on in multiple states, and then you have cannabidiol that came in and kind of from left field and then became confused with all the rest. And so essentially CBD is the cannabinoids are receptors that actually your body does produce inside your endocannabinoid system, your ECS system, which is the system that essentially regulates your body. It regulates the normalcy of your body. Your body's always trying to fight back to homeostasis, and your body produces these cannabinoids to help out. So what has been found is that if you take CBD in its many forms, and we'll talk about the many forms, it tends to restore the cannabinoids or at least help them. And so it helps your body maintain a normalcy. And if you can imagine the way you can branch out from there, normalcy is normally disrupted by inflammation, by anxiety, by depression, by epilepsy. You can go on and on and on. What disrupts the normalcy inside a human body. And so CBD.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Are you telling me this is an organic way to heal your body?
Yes, and that is part of the frustration, is that when you can prescribe opioids to a 14-year-old and it's perfectly fine, but you can take something that's extracted from hemp, and you have all these confusion factors of, we don't know if the FDA wants you to take it, we don't know if the DEA is going to enforce something, but yes, on the other hand, you can prescribe something, or the SSRIs, the antidepressant medications that people can't get off of once they get on them. So you have all this prescribed things that are really worse for you, that are just have a clean slate from a doctor to a patient, and now you have something that could help naturally, and it's a ton of confusion right now.
It is confusing. I mean, I see emails, it's the miracle pain treatment. It will cure your it will fix your blood sugar. It will help you sleep better. Is all of that true?
Well, truth, I'm a researcher as well, so truth is normally found in the facts. Uh, when you have the government regulation side that's confusing one end, you have the other side, which is when somebody finds that it helped them with something, they put it out as a claim, and so now you have a little bit of a frustration on the other end with the producers of this product because. Uh, and that's normally what the FDA is upset about right now is people making claims that it can help things. And so that's where they're sending out the warning letters. At this point, the the gathering of truth, if you want to call it that, from just consumer feedback has been that it does show an impact on things like insomnia, things where it helps you sleep, seizures, and inflammation. As it goes from there, then you have to be careful. And in essence, I'm gonna start this and probably say it multiple times. Whatever works for you, if you're trying to fight something off or trying to help something, this is a pretty natural way to go about it, and it's worth trying.
Well, don't you think that inflammation is the root of a lot of the immune disorder problems that we have?
Well, the inflammation and obviously inflammation is just your body fighting something, and so there are those who have chronic inflammation. There are those who have periodic inflammation. We've also found that a lack of sleep can cause inflammation, and so if you can help one and it helps the other, then why not try it? It's been shown that you cannot over on cannabidiol, and you can obviously the other prescribed drugs you can overdose and everything else that goes along with it. So it's worth a try, and we'll have to get into dosages as well because that's a little difficult.
That's a good question. Somebody told me there's actually an app that has just been released that if you do want to use CBD oil, it will tell you exactly how much to take. But before we talk about dosage,
Yeah.
I've seen it in a liquid. I've gotten emails about gummies. What are the different forms that it comes in?
Well, I have a couple here with me. I'm not going to show you the brand because I'm not trying to promote any brands. Um, Probably the most popular right now is the tincture, and that's why I'm going to turn the label the other way. The tincture is normally taken sublingually. You basically introduce it to the body under your tongue. You let it sit there for about 30 seconds, and then you swallow. It avoids the digestive system, works its way straight into your bloodstream, so it's relatively quick in its reaction or its impact on your body.
What does it
Um,
taste like?
well, and that's where we'll have to get into full spectrum, isolate, and broad spectrum. Most people have found that a full spectrum CBD tincture doesn't taste very good, and so what you'll find, and those you can either dilute it or you can mix it in something on your own. You don't necessarily have to have somebody else infuse your food for you. You can do that on your own, or you can buy them with flavors. You have cinnamon. You have multiple flavors out there. So you should try it the first time without it. It's kind of like green tea without sugar. Give it a try, and if you can adjust to it, that's probably the best way to take it.
So can you cook with it? Can you mix
Oh,
it in
absolutely.
with heat? So if I want to make soup, I could just put it in my soup.
Correct. Heat does not impact it, at
Okay.
least not a kind of a regular heat like that. The the issue is going to be how long how long you want to wait for it to take effect. And so if you add it to your soup, you're not taking it sublingually, which means you are
Oh.
ingesting it. and then you have to wait for it to make it through your digestive system. So that might take, this is part of the issue with people overdosing on edibles, is edibles take so long for you to feel the impact, because they have to work their way through, digest, and work their way out into your bloodstream. It could take up to 2 hours for food that's infused with CBD for you to feel the effect. And so, yes, you can, but it depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
So that's one form that it comes in.
Yes. So, and I can do this in order of how it impacts. So this is the other one. This is the solve. This is topical. And I know you've had multiple questions on what CVS and Walgreens are doing. They are primarily talking about the topical, and topical is going to be available over the counter, so you do not need a prescription for it. You can, I don't know yet where they're going to shelve it, but it'll be available out there in the pain relief, if not the lotion pain relief section. The topical can be applied to any part of your body that has some pain that you'd like to either get rid of immediately, or obviously if you have something chronic. It moves into your bloodstream through your skin. Obviously, your largest body part is your skin, and it works pretty well. It also wears off quickly. So this is, you have to gauge each one of these. Some last a long time, some don't. The topicals tend to wear off. You can apply a topical with a roll-on as well. This is a little bit cleaner. You don't necessarily have to wash your hands after it as you would with a lotion. A little less effective, but it's relatively discreet. You can keep it with you. The other ways are capsules. Capsules are, as you can imagine, they have CBD in them. You just swallow them and they take effect. And then probably the one with the most stigma would be the vape. And when you, I mean, you can smoke it as well, but most people who smoke are heading towards vaping anyway, just because it's a little bit, once again, it's a little bit more discreet. Vaping is an almost immediate effect. It lasts a while. You can control the dosage you're intaking, but unfortunately, there's a counterbalance with you're walking around with a vape pen, and that tends to have a lot of stigma attached to it.
But all the different forms are equally legal.
No.
Okay. Well, tell me about that.
So let's break it down a little bit. If it is hemp derived, it is federally legal. So if it comes specifically from the hemp side of the cannabis plant, is certified to have less than 0.3% THC, then it is a federally legal product in all forms, unless the state wants to enforce their own rules, which obviously we have federal rules, we have state rules. Anything derived from the marijuana side that does have THC or has more than 0.3% THC has to follow the marijuana rules of state by state. So now you've broken it down to that side. You have hemp derived, industrial hemp, or you have marijuana derived. Marijuana, you need to keep it over here on the side with the states that have marijuana rules. On the CBD side, the FDA has said immediately after the Farm Bill was passed, the FDA said they were not going to allow you to sell CBD infused foods. Now, that doesn't mean people have stopped. What they're saying is they're not quite sure on the impact from CBD being in food, and they want to study it. The latest timing on that one is you can provide feedback to the FDA right now, and they're going to have a hearing in May where they start to decide what to do with food. That one has been as sporadically as enforced as any of them. You have CBD dinners, CBD infused dinners, and then you have on the same side, you have people who have said that they've come in and shut them down and pulled it from restaurants and things like that. So that one is a little that one is a little tough. I would tell you that's why CVS and Walgreens have gone with the topical. The topical is not being ingested, and it seems to fit under uh, as many legal allow. It's allowed legally as well as possible. So that's the one that you are the most sure of. And then the tinctures, because you can infuse your own food. Tinctures tend to be uh, pretty well accepted. I think it's when you add them to gummy bears and chocolate and tea and things like that, that you might be at the whim of the local authorities until somebody figures it out.
When do you think somebody will figure it out? Is this years away, or is this something that's top of mind?
Well, the neat thing is that FDA actually owns the rights to CBD. They have a drug that came out last year for epilepsy by the FDA, and it's derived from CBD. And so, in essence, it's in their best interest to move this along so they can at least continue to collect taxes, if not start collecting taxes. One of the hangups is actually interstate, and so if you're finding it grown in your own state, that tends to be accepted. If it's grown in another state and moves across state borders, then it tends to be an issue. I would state that this is an information piece, which is excellent. That doesn't mean everybody has this information, and so if you happen to be traveling through an airport, my suggestion would be leave it at home. You don't you're not going to be the trendsetter who can stand there at TSA and say, but this is legal, this is hemp derived, and I did all my homework. I think at that point it's kind of a bad idea. You're not the one who's supposed to be informing the TSA what is legal, what is not legal.
So that's a good tip. If you're traveling, leave it at home. And from a consumer standpoint, are there any other tips that you would like to share? How
I would,
often do you use it? Do you need
yeah,
guidelines? Do you use it whenever?
yeah, and I would tell you, my personal experience. So I started this as a researcher because I'm interested in the food industry, and I understand that this is a massive trend, and we've seen companies go full bore towards CBD, and then also going to be cannabis as well. So or THC as well. So um, you've got to you don't know what anything is going to do to your body, but you know that there are things you're being prescribed that are highly addictive, and when you Google how do I get off antidepressants, and there are 30 million hits of people saying I cannot get off this thing, it's worth a try. Understanding dosages is going to be difficult, and I'd be interested to see that app. Uh, Most every product says you need to take it until you feel something, which is really not a good dosage suggestion. Uh, but it's also you're going to need I'm assuming the app will say how tall are you and how much do you weigh, and maybe even some BMI or something to understand how difficult it'll be for it to impact. So you probably know your body better than others.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think you have to take it and understand what you're trying to accomplish. If you just have a sore knee, take the time and give it a try and see if it works. There might be a little bit of a placebo effect. We don't really know. The people who have tried it swear by it. I've tried it, and I like it. A personal testimony. I don't think I was in REM sleep for years until I started taking CBD at night, and now I know I'm getting there, and if that helps the rest of your life, then you should go for it and give it a try.
Well, I believe sleep is a foundation for the brain. You know,
Yes.
all day long, that brain's wiring and firing, and you're creating that toxic waste. And the only time those little glial cells can come out and clean up that mess is when you're asleep. So I
I agree.
certainly agree with you. You know, if it improves your sleep, it's going to improve your overall well being. The last thing that I want to ask you is because I work with a lot of people with anxiety, and actually they're the ones that have I usually hear from. Do you think it will help my anxiety? You know, um, in general, how would you answer that question?
I would say that I would rank anxiety right up there with the sleep and the inflammation, and of course, I can't speak for epilepsy, so it has to kind of move over. CBD, you probably know the technical term better than I do, is 5-HT1A agonist. So it has actually been proven to help your serotonin receptors, and they tend to be kind of the base of things that cause depression and or anxiety, and so um, there's a people tend to describe it as kind of an awakening effect, that in essence, it kind of clears away the cobwebs, and most people who are anxious, it's things are confusing, and you like things to kind of slow down and mellow out. You have to be careful every time you say mellow out. People think, oh, you're sitting in a corner or taking
Yeah.
CBD. You're really not. It actually clarifies your mind. So I would say anxiety would be one of the first things I would try it with and see how it works.
Well, thank you so much. You've cleared up just the fog that I've had about CBD oil, and I feel like when people ask me, I need to be informed. If people have general questions, is there any place online that they can go to look for just general information?
Oh, absolutely. That's where this information changes daily. And so keeping up, social media is the best place to go because obviously it can change by the minute. CBD Origin, I absolutely love those guys. I don't even know who they are. And I will tell you that they seem well founded. They don't seem supported. I would suggest you do not go to a CBD producer's website
Okay.
and try to figure out what's legal, and because they're going to be incredibly biased. I like CBD Origin because they don't tend to be biased. They tend to be as factual as possible. Uh, on Instagram, there's I think CBD Real Reviews. They do an excellent job. They are as unbiased as possible, and they talk about looking for third-party certification, looking for pesticides, and understanding what went into the production of the product. So it is a natural product, but that doesn't mean people haven't tried fungicides and pesticides and things that they didn't clear back out before they put it in a bottle. So you still have to look for third-party testing as well.
Okay, so CBD Origins. And is that on Facebook or is that a website or both?
They have a website. They also have Instagram. So
Okay.
Instagram is a nice way to see if they've posted something new.
Okay, and you mentioned the last one you mentioned on Instagram.
Uh, I don't have it in front of me. I think they're called CBD Real Reviews.
Okay. All
And
right.
so they tend to they break apart products to see if there's something in there. The biggest mistake is being in a state that has legalized marijuana. And so you pick up CBD and you don't check to see if it's hemp derived. And so you take it and all of a sudden you have the THC effect. So you have to turn the label around and understand whether or not you got hemp CBD versus THC CBD.
Well, you know what? That is great advice to leave us with. Read the back of the bottle or the
Yeah.
whatever it comes in. Thank you so much. I enjoyed having you and I learned so much. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.